Alright, so this is going to be another comic review, and this is another book sent to me by my friend Chris. Chris, thank you once again. And today we're going to be talking about Black Mass Rising. This is from TKO Studios, excuse me. Yeah, and it's written by Theo Paradisus and artwork by Jody Muir. This was a comic I was really excited to read. It was a comic that when I heard the premise and wanted to check it out, I was really curious about it. So you're probably wondering what is this comic about? What is Black Mass Rising about? Well, it's a horror book that actually acts as a sequel to Dracula. Basically, this is set a year after in Transylvania, a year after Dracula has been slain. But the thing is that a lot of his minions and other demons are still wandering around, and this healer, who has this no-name healer, along with a young girl, and actually Mina Murray, not Harker, the three of them are now trying to figure out if Dracula has been resurrected, or if it's something else going on, as all these strange supernatural beings start coming out of the woodwork in the name of Dracula. So that is where we are with the story. That is the story on a whole. Now, what I like about this comic is that the series itself is a very Castlevania reminiscent. As you guys know, I really dug the Castlevania animated series, so this really does have a kind of Castlevania feel to the comic. The whole story of what does Transylvania do now that the one evil that is hung over them like a noose is gone. You'd think that they would finally find peace, and even people were saying we were so close. We came so close to finally having peace, and now all of this bullshit is happening again. Why us? Why does this keep happening to us? I also really like the back and forth between. I really enjoy the back and forth between the healer, who does get the name who is granted the name Bogdan, and the other woman who's with him, Alora, and Mina. They call her. They go by her full name, Wilhelmina. I really do like her story, is that she's almost because they always talk about this thing called the Battle of Eagle's Nest, where Dracula had his final battle, and she was there, and she played a part in it. Now, I will say that this artwork in here is awesome. Jody Muir does have a really solid voice for artwork. I feel like I've seen her artwork before, but she just does a great job on shading and ink. I mean, look at that. I mean, the camera's not going to do it justice, but that is a beautiful cathedral, Gothic cathedral. There's also really cool demon designs in here. Again, really invoking that feeling of dread, and also again that Castlevania feel. I really enjoy how this comic plays out, of a slow burn kind of horror, and it builds up every chapter. Now, I will say that I do feel like the comic, you figure out who the healer really is. I'm not, for sake of not spoiling it, I'm not gonna say who the healer is, but you kind of figure it out real fast. And when you figure it out, and how he connects to the world at large, you're like, well, I feel like I really do feel like this would have been cooler if it wasn't so blatantly obvious as to who who the healer truly was. I'm not gonna spoil it, but at the same time, I'm also like, man, it was a little too easy to figure out who he was. I also will really say that Mina herself, and when they explain her backstory to Dracula in here, it goes in a direction you were not expecting. It really does go in a direction that is different from the book. And they do take liberties, because it doesn't really follow the novel of Dracula. It feels more like we're really kind of focusing in on that Castlevania feel, but we're doing in the novelization of Dracula. So I do like that it does take elements of the book, but it's also very clear where you're also taking elements from. There's also some nice folk horror scenes in here. I really enjoy that. There's a lot to really like about this comic. I have read a lot of pretty decent horror comics. There is another Dracula-centric horror comic I do want to read that the first volume has come out, and I'm kind of like, ooh, I want to read this. It's called Mortal Terror. It's basically the story of Dracula, but flipped, where Jonathan Harker and Mina and all the other human characters are the vampires, and Dracula is the vampire hunter. He's human. It's like a cool reverse story to it. But I'd love to read that. It's called Mortal Terror. It's also from Dark Horse. But would I recommend this book? I do recommend this book, actually. If you enjoy Dracula, and if you enjoy, again, that kind of if you have like a Castlevania-sized hole in your heart, here you go. Like I said, I do like the squad of characters we have, and while we do figure out who the healer is, I don't think that detracts anything away at the end. So once again, I'd like to thank my friend Chris for sending me this comic, and if you've read Black Mass Rising, let me know in the comments below what you guys thought of it. Just comment below, let me know. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.